We in Chaguanas tonight. Allow me to welcome you all here to Chaguanas, and allow me to adopt the protocols before, as we have our deputy political leader, Mr. Rohan Sinanan. We have our General Secretary, Mr. Foster Cummins. We have the other members of the head table, Minister Sagram Singh, Minister Sukai, and our next councillor in Enterprise, Lisa Holder. And to one of my colleagues out there in the crowd, Haji Kazim Hussain. And I was told that our matriarch is here. I thought I spotted her. Madam Joan Yule Williams. PNM family, thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight in the heart and in the central of Trinidad. Because you see, it is important that we come out tonight because we have some important messages for you all. As the speakers before me spoke about, this is a local government election. And that means it's what is on the ground affecting you. Are our drains being cleaned? We have to return Lisa Holder as the candidate because they didn't do anything with the Das Trace grounds. And that is what the UNC has done whilst they've held the Chaguanas Corporation. They have had all of the power, all of the money, and they have done nothing for Chaguanas. And that is why we have to return the People's National Movement into the council in Chaguanas, in the heart of their belly. But there are some other messages tonight that we from Chaguanas must speak to the people in the rest of Trinidad, because we are seeing some dangerous things taking place. A short while ago, we heard a tape being played. You all recognize those voices? Two of them have now joined up with Auntie Kamla, and they're there on the platform with them, ripping open shirt to see fat belly and different color underneath. But people, it is not a joke, because what you all need to realize and recognize is that people will say one thing today to you, and before the night over, they will say another thing. Whereas the People's National Movement will stand on principle. No matter how difficult the times are, we stand on principle and we make the right decisions, not only for Trinidad and Tobago, but in every council where we have leadership, every council and corporation where we have aldermen and elected members in our councillors. You can be assured that the People's National Movement will make decisions based on principle of what is best for you. And this is what is best for you in your community. I want to remind the people of Trinidad here tonight of what it is to do business in those kind of coalitions. The last coalition we had between 2010 and 2015. Remember when all of them came together? Well, I'm offering Jack Warner a ticket to Miami tonight. A first-class ticket to Jack tonight. So when you want to jump on platform on Monday, understand they have a first-class ticket to Miami waiting for him if he wants to go. Because you see, when countries ask for people to be extradited, that is an important thing and we must listen. Well, let me explain to you all what the request for extradition is. Extradition, sorry. They have asked for him to come to the United States to face some serious charges. You all remember when the first set of people they were asking to be extradited was? The same airport that Minister Sinanan just talked about. So they have a few of them that can't even jump on a plane to go from Trinidad to Tobago. But those are the people that are coming forward now to ask to represent us here across Trinidad and Tobago. And when you hear people talk about the laziness of somebody and bad talk them in the manner that we just heard, but a few seconds later, that is the best thing since sliced bread, stand up and take note. So I want to use two examples for you all here tonight, whilst I have your attention. The heart of Trinidad, not too far from here in Couva, is our energy sector. And between 2010 and 2015, they ran that energy sector into the ground. They decimated the energy sector. Why is that important to you all? Because the money that we get to run the country, to pay the corporation workers, to pay our CPEP workers, to make sure the schools are open, to make sure we have the desks in school for our children, comes from our energy sector. Between 2010 and 2015, they did not negotiate a single contract for the continuation of gas. Why does that matter to us? Because it left us in a bad position when we came in 2010 to after 2015. I want the people of Trinidad and Tobago to understand that after Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the People's Partnership that included at a cabinet level some of those who are now coming forward with their other parties to join in a coalition, destroyed the energy sector because they knew nothing about it and they were only interested in themselves. I want to point out that when we came in 2015, we met $9 billion in claims because of their mismanagement of the energy sector. I cannot begin to understand, and I'm sure none of you could understand, what $1 billion looks like. But that is what they did in 5 short years. We have had to spend the next few years engaging, getting rid of $9 billion in claims, negotiating against some of the most sophisticated people in the world in the energy sector. When you're sitting down on a table opposite a BP and a Shell and a EOG and a Woodside and a BHP, they are very sophisticated people. It is a PNM government that developed the energy sector in Point Lisa, sir. And don't forget that. And when the UNC came in them 5 years, they mash it up. So what we have to do on August 14th for the future of our young children who are sitting down here and the generations to come, we have to make sure that we return PNM councillors to send a message. And we have to tell the UNC, the NTA, whatever Jack wants to call himself now, to rock so. You all remember that? So we will vote for the PNM on August 14th in 141 seats. Because it is your PNM party that has made sure in 141 seats you have a candidate you could go and vote for. That is the energy sector. I wouldn't tell you all too much tonight about how the PNM over the last 8 years has worked. And when they talk about a reduction in production of gas, if we sign a gas deal today, the first gas is not going to come straight away. So the deduction and the reduction in production that we're facing now is because of the UNC. So when you hear them saying that there's less gas, there's two things. One, when you take gas out of the ground, they have no new gas coming. So it's depleting, it's disappearing. But two, they did nothing between 2010 and 2015. So when you come in 2015, you're literally starting from scratch and rebuilding. So you will face a decline. So when you all are thinking about what to do on August 14th and beyond that, remember, that is how that coalition, they now want to put themselves together as a coalition. That is how they ran the energy sector. Now let me come to national security, because they like to now prey on our national psyche as we face difficult times in crime. But let me tell you all something. You remember a few months ago, all the leaders of the CARICOM came to Trinidad to talk about crime. Anybody who paid attention would have heard the Commissioner of Police from Jamaica and the Commissioner of Police from the Bahamas talk about what they are facing. And it is almost identical to what we are facing here in Trinidad, which is why we have been spending so much time talking to the United States, and they have heard us, because we need to combat the illegal guns coming into the country. Because we don't make guns in Trinidad and Tobago, you know. Those are coming from somewhere. So all these AR-15s and AK-47s coming, unfortunately, from the United States. And this government is a government that has no cocoa in the sun, not in bed with any criminal, not protecting any criminal. And that is why we are fighting that, as you heard happening in Jamaica, in Bahamas, 3 days or 2 days ago in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, right across the pond from us, in their capital city. 5 people murdered with these heavy arms. So don't let them fool you. It's a Trinidad problem. But I want to tell you all how they dealt with it in 2010 to 2015. If you have to stop illegal guns, illegal drugs, and all kind of illegal things coming into the country, because we are 2 islands, so everywhere is the sea, you need boats. The Coast Guard need vessels. What's the first thing that national security under Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the coalition, with 2 of them who are national security ministers under her, they cancel the OPVs. We cannot forget that. That was a deliberate decision. And the Brazilian Navy now running the OPVs up and down. The first thing they did was dismantle SAUT. You all remember SAUT? S-A-U-T-T? That was one of the best crime-fighting initiatives. We had the expertise. They were getting things done, kidnappings down, everything. Why would they dismantle that? The same ones who want to come forward now as though they are the panacea for fighting these things. So you cancel the boats. What did they do? For 5 years and 3 months, no boats. But then the boat went, no pun intended, to China, see a boat and say, I go take one of those. It was not a vessel that was designed for the Coast Guard. On their way out of office in 2015, they hurried and they procured some Daemon vessels. Now, I want you all to remember this. So they like to say, well, we got vessels. A few things wrong with that. One, not one of us as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago knew they went to get those vessels. We heard about it at an election. Whereas when our Prime Minister and our political leader went to get the 2 Cape-class vessels in Australia, everyone knew about it. But you see, I could say so because I was there with him. I was there, and this Prime Minister and this government is always accountable to the people and transparent, and I want you all to understand that. So when you see the Prime Minister is on an overseas trip, and every day we're making sure and put out press releases and media releases as to who he met with. Let me tell you the importance of that. One of the first meetings we had in Australia was with Hostal. And we didn't hide it, because it wasn't hiding on a jetty somewhere saying we want one of those. We told the population, we're here in Australia and we are looking at these types of vessels for the Coast Guard in Trinidad and Tobago. People, you need to compare how they behave compared to how a PNM government behaves. The next thing you saw was us meeting with the Australian government's Exim Bank. And we put out a release on that. And that is where the money came to buy those 2 Cape-class vessels and the 2 fast ferries. But what the UNC did with the Daemon vessels, we didn't know about it. Thank God the population put us in power and to govern Trinidad and Tobago in September 2015. One of the first things we had to face is a bill for those vessels. They had taken out no money, no financing for the Daemon vessels. We didn't know they were buying it. They had no money lined up to pay for it, so it was an election gimmick. And then worse than that, I could say here tonight without fear of contradiction, there is an international criminal investigation. International. So they can't say it's the TTPS. International criminal investigation into the UNC's procurement of those Daemon vessels now. That is how the coalition does business. So people of Trinidad, as we go to the polls on August 14, these are the things to remember. That is how they do business their way. Let me ask you all a question here in Chaguanas. Our candidate for Enterprise, Lisa Holder, is going up in Enterprise. And you know what the Burgesses are telling her? They're complaining about the Das Trace grounds and the state that it is in. Who has been in charge of the Chaguanas Corporation for the last 3-4 years? The UNC. What have they done about it? Nothing. You know why? I want you all to mark this here carefully tonight. They choose very, very carefully where they put resources. I just reminded them down in Equazi where I was. I reminded them of some disturbing things that are implanted in my head from when I was Minister of National Security and we were managing COVID. You all remember the images of some young children in Silot and some young children in Cocorit when they were held by the police during COVID? Those images still to this day disturb me, seeing our children face down on rocks on a beach. You all remember that? You all remember how that was done and who did it? You remember a few days later, around the same time, they had people partying in bikinis by a pool nearby, because that pool is a stone's throw from where they swim in Cocorit. You remember what happened? You remember the disrespect to the Prime Minister and the Chairman of the National Security Council? Well, let me tell you all and warn you all here tonight, in Chaguanas, in the center of Trinidad, actions speak louder than words. When you see how we are treated, that is what we must remember. So come August 14th, don't take God out of your thoughts and put any of that back into power. Because you see, those are some live examples of how the PNM operates with principle. We take difficult decisions. I could tell you all, sitting at the cabinet table for the last 8 years has not been easy. When we were in the middle of COVID and people have forgotten about COVID, and you had very little revenue coming in because businesses were closed and you had no tax to collect, we took decisions that we must make sure everybody gets paid. We took decisions that small businesses must get grants. I remember us looking at the number of small businesses here in Chaguanas, number of small businesses in Cuba, in Port of Spain, in San Fernando, in Point Fortin, in Mayaro, and taking those decisions for all the citizens, not for a choice few. And that is what you could count on. And it is the same thing at council. When a PNM corporation is in power, you never hear about them starving certain areas where you may not have a PNM councillor. These are important messages and lessons that we have to take note of. So as you here in Chaguanas carry the fight and the battle for the 14th of August, I am asking you, as your chairman and as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, get behind every single PNM candidate and go and vote the PNM back into office where we need to be. As Minister Sinanan and the other speakers said before me, and look at the diversity. You have young Renuka Sagram Singh, who has stepped up to the plate and in the last few weeks told us about her journey and her battles, and she has come forward to serve in a PNM government. Richie Sukai, who was the face of Chaguanas, gave up that comfort to join the Red Army because he believes in the principle and what our leadership is doing. Lisa, who has been with us, has put herself back up to serve. Foster Cummins, who I hear was born in diapers outside Balize House ashore, who is one of the longest standing members of the Balize Brigade, is here fighting with us all these decades as our General Secretary now. And his ministry is doing fabulous things for the young people. It is the first time, and it took a PNM government to have a whole ministry for youth and national service. And they're frightened of it. They're terrified of it. But remind yourselves again what it is they did. Foster told us they closed down the youth camps. Foster told us in certain areas they were not providing for the youth. That is how our PNM government looks after young people, because we recognize it is necessary. Rohan Sinanan, many of us may not have known it, but they again in the PNM, telling me since the days of Eric Williams how his family was involved, doing what he has to do. And look where he is today, a deputy political leader that has led us to victory. It is Rohan who in the Section 34 march, I standing up in Port of Spain, Jennifer outside all your building. And Rohan sees me at the side of the road, watching the march going on and about to join it, and grab me and pull me in. And that is how the PNM operates. And I look around this crowd tonight. I just came from the Quasi, where there have another 1,000 plus of us. And I am happy to see the Red Army. And I am happy to see the young children hear the messaging. Because it is only when PNM is in power, you get sober decision making. You get principled decisions. You get equity. You get people looking after everybody. And I looking around the crowd here. And I am proud tonight. And that's why I chose that song to be red, white, and black. And I am calling on right-minded, civic-minded citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to remind yourselves as you come out your homes on August 14, do not be apathetic. Do not sit down and say, well, it's a local government. I ain't had a vote. The government there go change. Those are the mistakes that people make that change the course of a country. We made that mistake in 2010, and the country is still suffering as a result. I can tell you all, as the Minister of Energy, that the energy sector is still suffering from the decimation of 2010 to 2015. Do not stay home and say it's a local government. Whether we be in Chaguanas, we in Couva, we in Cedrus, we in Point Fortin, we in Mayaro, we in Rio Claro, we in Sandy Grande, we in Comuto, we coming across by Foster, in La Hoqueta Talparo, Aruca Maloney, Lopino Bonaire, St. Augustine, Tunapuna, as we come down into Port of Spain, passing St. Joseph, St. Augustine, wherever it is, we hit Port of Spain, Diego Martin. People, this is one of the most important decisions you're going to make for the future of your children, and don't take those words lightly. So on August 14th, we have two choices. One, get up out of my bed to go and vote. And two, as we go in the booth, we're voting for one of our 141 candidates, no matter where we are in Trinidad. And on August 14th, make the sober choice for the future generations, for these children here and the little one in your arms there. We're making it for them, and we're returning the People's National Movement to the 14 corporations to make sure that that unholy coalition is put to bed once and for all. And we will say on the night of August 14th, no matter where we are, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we have prevailed. Thank you.
TNT, yes, we love you.